Welcome. This is the Midlife Rising podcast. On the last episode, we talked about why sleep gets so disrupted in midlife. But today we're actually going to go 10 times deeper because before you can sleep, you actually have to allow yourself to rest. And that's where so many women actually get stuck. We feel like we can't stop. So on today's episode, we're going to talk about more than just sleep. We're going to talk about rest in general. We're going to show you the reasons why rest feels so hard in midlife, why it matters more than ever, and the surprising and counterintuitive thing that happens when you finally give yourself permission to rest. So, if I've piqued your interest, let's dive in. You're a woman over 40 who spent your life being the one who holds it all together. But now your body's changing and your soul is done pretending everything is fine. Welcome to Midlife Rising. We're your hosts, Sherry and Jen, twin sisters and modern medicine women, here to help you rewire your stress response, balance your hormones, and reclaim your feminine power. Every episode is a rebellion against the rules you never agreed to and a return to yourself. Join us where midlife isn't a crisis, it's a catalyst. Hi, Jen.
Hi.
I'm kind of excited to talk about this because, as you know, Jen, I'm a nutritionist, so I like to talk about the stuff we talked about last week on episode 10, what's going on in the body and why sleep actually eludes us. But I also really love to talk about the emotional and spiritual stuff, the stuff that's really preventing us, the emotional blocks that are preventing us from resting. And this is where I think it gets really interesting.
It does, because you can do all the body stuff, but if your subconscious patterns, if your beliefs about rest won't let you rest, then it doesn't matter. The supplements won't do anything.
No, exactly. No. And getting your body physically balanced is one thing. But then if you keep exercising these blocks to resting, then the physical stuff's just going to go out of balance again. So I'm thinking that we start with the multiple ways that midlife women's conditioning is what's stopping us from getting rest.
I love that because there are so many different ways that societal conditioning, our own parents' childhood, stops us from resting.
Yeah.
We could go on forever.
Yeah. Why don't you start with the first thing that you and I were talking about just before we hit the record?
I'm having a foggy brain moment because I don't remember exactly what we were talking about, but I have something I'd like to talk about. And that is that we feel like we have to get a bunch of things done before we can rest.
That is what we were talking about.
Oh, I'm thinking specifically about... I thought that idea came out of my head. So I'm thinking specifically about our childhood and how we weren't allowed to rest and play.
Oh, yes.
Until we did all our chores.
Yeah.
And that, my little brain in childhood took that to mean so many things. And the first thing was that I got to get everything done before I can rest. I got to get everything done before I can play. Because that's what mom said it hundreds of times. Get it over with. Just get your work over with, get your chores over with, get your homework over with, and then you can go outside and play. And by the time we got it all done, our friends were gone. They didn't want to play anymore. They were whatever, had to go inside. So we missed out.
Yeah. And that continual message that I think part of the message was you're going to feel like you can play when you've got it done, or you can feel like you can rest. And my body now will not slow down. Like it will not, my nervous system will not calm down until the stuff is done. It's like it's hardwired now.
It is. And you'd think we'd go the other way because time and time again, we'd realize that, okay, we missed out on the play date because we were doing chores. So you'd think that we would keep fighting for playing first, which we did for a time. But eventually my little brain went, okay, if I could just get these, mom's not going to allow me to play first. And if we tried to play, I remember a few occasions where we played first and we got spanked for it. Hence the nervous system issue today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, I think my little brain went, okay, if I could just get it done faster, then I can play. Then I'll get to play earlier and I won't miss the play date.
Yes. So be faster, be more efficient, be more productive. And then you can rest. Then you can play. Play is rest.
Yeah, we're conflating the two, which I think is perfectly fine in this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, Cher, that happened in that situation that happened over and over again was, I know for both of us, our little brains went, okay, I have to earn my rest. It's not just get it over with first. Like there's this get it over with thing, but there's also this, well, I haven't done enough to deserve rest.
And that, I see that in my clients all the time. Earning, this need to earn, it's not just rest. It's play, it's pleasure, it's food. Like I have to earn the piece of cake. It's this need to earn what we feel is a luxury. Like rest has become a reward or for earning, like for what you've done.
That's actually two different things, Cher. Like not different, but slightly different tweaks on the same thing. Like it's a reward is one thing, but also that it's a luxury that we shouldn't have. Like I see a slight difference there. It might be semantics, but reward is like, when I do this, I get to do that. A luxury is, oh, I'm not good enough for that. That's a luxury. Only like those people get to do that. When you feel you don't deserve it, it's different. And I'm pretty sure I have myself both of those things.
I think we all probably carry elements of both, of all of it, really.
I mean, I've certainly seen it amongst the women that come to me as well.
And that's a good segue to the next thing that we were talking about earlier is that rest feels like laziness unless we've done enough, unless it's a reward. So, and laziness, it feels like laziness or it feels like a waste of time. I'm not doing anything when I rest. So I'm not being productive, or that's the belief that I'm not being productive. And you and I were also talking about how our culture has this belief about time, that time can be wasted. I find that I have the same, it sort of comes from the same place. I'm going on a tangent here, but money wasted, for me, like that comes from the same place as time wasted, food being wasted. It all feels like the same feeling.
It's like this resistance. I don't even know how to describe it in my body. It's resistance and this feeling like I should not be doing that.
It's conflict inside your body.
Yeah, I should not be wasting time. It's like a very deeply ingrained should. And resting is, in certainly the way we were brought up, resting is a waste of time. I want to talk about, share the, some of the things even underneath that, like peel away one more layer. Because what I was thinking about as you were talking, just going back to the rest is a waste of time and where that comes from. Because like if we start from rest needs to be earned, so rest is, we shouldn't be resting, and rest is also a waste of time. It's lazy. That also comes from so many different places in itself. Like society tells women that we shouldn't rest. Actually, I want to be more specific. We shouldn't rest when somebody else isn't resting, or it's when we shouldn't rest when somebody else is struggling,
or when somebody else needs us, or when there's some way to be serving.
Like if your kid is struggling with something, I shouldn't be lying on the couch. If my kid needs help, I should be helping her.
Yeah. And if my husband is doing something around the house that needs to be done, I shouldn't be lying on the couch. And yet it's funny. he has no problem doing this, doing exactly that, lying on the couch watching TV while I'm cleaning and vacuuming and doing all those things literally around him.
I know. I know. And I've heard many of my clients say, yep, if he's cutting the grass, I can't be sitting around.
Yeah. And I don't fault him for, like, it doesn't bother me that he's laying on the couch while I'm cleaning. I don't fault him for that, but I envy it.
I feel the same, Cher. Like, I don't fault him for that because he has a right to rest too. I know he's worked hard in the week and but I envy it.
That's what resentment is. Yeah. Brene Brown talks about, where she defines resentment in Atlas of the Heart. I have to remember that to link that up in the show notes because it's such a great way of dissecting what emotion you're feeling. But resentment, she talks about that being, I'm not angry that you're resting. I'm angry or I'm resentful that you are resting and I don't feel like I can.
So that's one place. But then the other thing is what we heard in our family was mom used to get, like mom must have felt that about dad because dad had a far easier time than resting on a Saturday afternoon than mom did. And she still like it gets upset if he stays in the house and does crossword puzzles all day and he's 82 years old. So I see it even now. The message and whatever was going on in her subconscious is her thing. But the message I took from that was that's shameful. Like she would kind of shame him for resting. And so I would be embarrassed if I was taking rest and feel extremely guilty about it. And because it was so looked down upon, I was like, well, I need to be valuable and rest isn't valuable.
You know, we talk about mom and dad a lot because they've taught us so many of our experiences are linked to them. So much of our conditioning comes from our parents in general. That's everybody. Most of our conditioning comes from parents, teachers, religious leaders, other close authorities and influencers in our lives. And I just need to qualify, or it's not qualify, but I need to say that this also isn't mom's fault. She learned this also from somewhere, her own conditioning, and passed it along. So if you're someone who is listening to this, or maybe even mom is listening to this,
and I was just thinking about that.
We're not talking about this to criticize our own mom or anybody else's parents. It's to shed light on where the conditioning comes from and how we can break the patterns. Because these are usually passed down, they're inherited from sometimes many generations. And so this is when you become aware of where your conditioning comes from, it can become easier to break those patterns, shift the beliefs, shift your own behavior as a result. And that's what we're aiming for here, is to shift the beliefs so that you can shift your own programming and shift how you feel about resting.
Yeah. And share what I've learned from theta healing is that I've always thought of our beliefs as coming from our childhood.
Which many of them are.
Yeah, probably most of them. And we constantly hear that, like, you know, the formative years in life, that's where we pick up our beliefs. However, I have also learned that our beliefs can be passed down genetically through DNA, and from past lives.
Yes.
Or what we call past lives. There's a debate about what is past. If there's no past, present, and future, past lives are like other experiences of our soul. So these beliefs can sometimes be really hard to break and shift because they're literally at a cellular level.
Yeah. And just in case there's somebody out there who is like, beliefs can come through our DNA. What? There is a study, this is well researched. There's a study out there that I am probably going to butcher, but essentially what they did is they took rats, they exposed them to something very benign that would never have triggered any sort of response in them. Cherry blossoms, I believe, was the scent. And then they electric shocked them at the same time. And the rats became fearful of the cherry blossoms. So they would cower, they would display all these fearful behaviors when they smelled cherry blossoms. And then all of these, they were female rats, all of the female rats, actually, I'm not even sure if that's true. There might have been males in there as well. They had babies. And then without the parent being around, they exposed the babies to the cherry blossoms and they exhibited the same fearful behavior without ever having been electric shocked. And they actually found that it extended several generations down. Like even those babies would exhibit all the fearful behavior when they were exposed to cherry blossoms. No electric shocks for those several generations.
Right.
Like that to me was fascinating.
It is. It's mind blowing. I've read that study as well.
So Jen, just sort of wrapping up what we wanted to talk about here, the multitude of ways that women feel it's so hard to rest during this stage of life. We talked about rest feeling like it's lazy or a waste of time. We talked about our childhood conditioning leading to us believing that we need to earn rest or rest. We can't rest until after we've gotten the to-do list done. We also alluded to the nervous system being wired to go. Like the nervous system can't even calm down when you intellectually tell yourself, I'm going to rest now. And your nervous system fires up because it's so conditioned to that rest is somehow dangerous. And then I don't know if we really got into this, but the productivity culture that we live in today, like there's so much messaging around, I got to get more productive, productivity tools, the way we tie our identity to being productive and efficient and getting a lot done.
Okay, let's talk about that. And then I think we should go back to the nervous system. I have an entire course on this, and that is centered around, it starts with, we glorify busyness, we praise productivity. It's all over corporate America. It's so common that many people don't even realize there's something wrong with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That actually sends both men and women into productivity mania. And then there's this whole thing about women. Like women are told from the start, we're second best. We don't, there's generations of beliefs that women don't belong in a man's world, in a man's business world. So at work, women work twice as hard as men. Not all women, many women work harder than men. They feel like they need to prove their value. And that is often by solving problems, firefighting, making sure everything's perfect, making sure everybody's happy. And being showing that we're busy, showing that we're being productive in very tangible ways. And so, because you can't see when I'm sitting around thinking about ideas, people can't see that that's being productive. So sometimes it's not consciously trying to show it. It's a subconscious feeling like I've got to prove my worth.
It's funny. I used to work for a think tank, like a consulting company. And in the office, we had this room that had books in it and it had some studies and it had comfy chairs. And it was intended to be a place to go and think and come up with ideas and creative time, like time for rest and allowing the ideas to come. You know how often people were in there? Almost never.
But interestingly, I had a conversation when I was first doing research for my Busy to Being program. And one of the women spoke at length about how she was a director. This is not a junior level woman, director in a large financial company, investment company. And she said, I know that I am never going to get to be a managing director because I have no strategy, she'd say. She'd say, I look at all my colleagues who I've grown up with in this world, and the guys, they haven't done their own analytics and reporting in years. And I'm still doing my own analytics and reporting. She said, because I can't stop myself.
Yeah, that's a whole other subject we're going to talk about on another podcast, Jen.
Yes. But coming back to that makes it very difficult to rest.
Yeah. Now, do you want to come back to the nervous system or did we say enough about that?
Well, you mentioned that our nervous systems don't feel safe resting. And I wanted to just touch on that because it's quite often an addiction to adrenaline.
Yes.
That makes us feel like when there is not adrenaline in our system, then we feel almost flat. And I have experienced that myself. Back in my corporate days, I walked into, like, I started a new role. And the guy that was in there before me was nutso, like chaotic. Like, we were always looking at this guy going, what is wrong with him? He's so busy and he's not on one of the biggest businesses. And I walked into that role to try to turn that business around. Or that's why they put me in that role. And at first I was very busy trying to turn it around. And then things calmed down and I felt very anxious. First I didn't know what to do with myself because there weren't any urgent fires for a time. And then I actually felt like edgy, maybe is the better word. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was like this edginess. Like I was like, I gotta do something. And I couldn't even get myself to sit down and read the annual report, which I needed to catch up on because I felt like I needed to be doing something.
I can so relate to that, Jen.
And so I started doing random stuff that was actually not very productive. Like I would have been much more helpful to sit down and read the strategy for the company that had just been handed down instead of doing, cleaning out my inbox or some other stupid task.
Yeah, I have felt that. I can so relate. I think that's probably really common. And I have seen that in my clients. They talk about the exact same thing. They set aside time to rest, to read, to do their own personal work or like personal development, that sort of thing. And one of my clients just said this the other day. I find myself sitting at the laptop, not doing anything really very productive, but it's 2 hours later and I've completely, not done the thing that I wanted to do, the rest. And it's because as soon as your body, like if you notice, as soon as you start to think about getting up and going to do the rest, all of a sudden your brain, like your nervous system fires up and then that tells your cortisol and your adrenaline to come out. And then you start looking for all these other little things that you could do that prevent you from going and resting. I'll just do this one thing before I go. And if I get this one thing done, and that's your nervous system.
That feels very uncomfortable in this unsafe place. So that is a pattern. It's a pattern in your brain that tells you that rest is not safe. So your body goes into fight, flight, freeze, fawn.
And now to just drive this home and also link it back to last week's episode 10, hopefully, listener, you are getting the picture that if you're not allowing yourself to rest, your body is in a heightened state, in a state of fight or flight or freeze. And what happens to our health emotionally, physically, when we keep pushing and never allow ourselves to rest? It's foundational to allow your body to rest. And when you don't, then you're going to experience too much cortisol. Your body experiences menopause symptoms. Your mind won't shut down when you actually want to sleep. Your body wakes you up in the middle of the night. It does all there's a knock-on effect from this heightened state of stress to your physical body.
There's one last thing I'm thinking about. Because this, sometimes it sounds, maybe because I feel like we're like standing on our pedestal. And it's that I get it. I'm a single mom right now, and it feels very busy on the days that I have my kid. Like she comes home at 5 o'clock or sometimes earlier if I can get myself and my nervous system to knock off early. But anyway, she comes home, let's say at 5 o'clock. Then it's spend a bit of time with her, get us dinner, and get her into the bath. And I often feel like I can't get dinner cleaned up before it's her bedtime. And so then I stay up. I start cleaning after, and I feel like I have to get it done tonight, because if I don't get the dishes done, then it's chaos in the morning and I won't get her lunch ready and I won't get her to school on time. And so I finish the dishes and then I stay up later because I want some rest, because now I feel like I finally deserve it because I've had a 12-hour day and it's 9 o'clock and I want to go to bed because I want to get up in the morning and work out. So I understand the conundrum of there's all these things to get done.
Yeah. I don't have kids and I still feel like that. It's all of this other stuff that we've already talked about that keeps us in that state. And so we are going to talk about, some practice. It's a practice, right? Like you and I are both practicing how to change this, and we've come up with some tools, but it's a process. It's a continual practice. It's like building muscle. You have to continue to work at building muscle and maintaining it. As soon as you stop working out or stop doing movement, then your muscles start to atrophy. So it's a continual practice. What I hear my clients say, what they really want is this permission to stop without feeling guilt, without feeling that they need to earn their rest. And maybe, dear listener, you might not have even thought about this before, but your bones are probably feeling this. You want permission to stop without guilt. You want to feel calm. You want to feel space. Like space to breathe is what I feel.
And space to live without like the resentment. Like a couple of the women that were in one of my programs were talking about this recently, how like one of them, she kept saying, I just want to be able to sit at my kid's soccer game and not be calculating how much time I'm losing or how much time I have left to work on that presentation.
Yeah, it's almost like I get annoyed with myself. Like, why can't I just stop doing this?
Yes, I'm sick of myself. And I want to not resent one or the other. Like sometimes I even resent my kid because she's taking me away from work. And I'm like, I don't want to resent my kid. I'm almost embarrassed to say that. There's all this resentment and I want to be rid of it.
Yeah. And this is a good segue into, what does this even look like to you just given an example of what it looks like to rest, to allow yourself to sit at your kid's game, whatever it is, soccer, football, whatever, dance, and not be thinking about what else you could be doing. It's letting go of the drive to multitask.
Because that makes you less productive anyway, yeah.
Right. And sometimes I find myself like I'm brushing my teeth and I'm cleaning up the bathroom counter as I'm doing it. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Because I have to stop brushing in order to like open up the drawer and put something in it. So
yeah,
I noticed I was doing that the other day and I'm like, why am I doing this? Why do I feel so compelled to multitask?
And it's constantly asking that question.
Yes, that is part of the practice, is noticing when you're doing these things. And we're going to come back to that. I just want to talk about a couple of other things that the way it shows up when you do feel that space.
Mm-hmm.
It's taking a nap in the middle of the afternoon. Without the guilt.
Last week, I watched TV in the middle of the day. I mean, granted, I was on holiday, which is a great time to practice these things, is when you are on holiday at home. I watched TV in the middle of the day.
Oh, yeah, that's really hard for me. I never turn on the TV in the middle of the day.
I know, and it felt great.
Yeah.
Leaving work at 12 yesterday to go to a golf tournament was like, it felt so good. I didn't feel any guilt
Yeah. And how great would that be, you know, for all women to feel as though they could, when their body is asking for rest, to lay down for 20 minutes in the afternoon and rest instead of saying, no, I got to push through, or feeling compelled to push through. Some of the other
if we
things,
could normalize it.
Yeah. And this, going back to the workplace, you know, the think tank that I worked for, it's actually taking an hour to plan out your week, your day, your month. It's taking an hour to just read the annual report or read something that's relevant for your industry. That's where the creative ideas come from. So it's allowing yourself the space at work as well as home to, like, rest can look different at work than it does at home. Rest at work can look like, it couldn't look like taking a break, like go and actually sit in the lunchroom or outside and have your lunch. But it can also look like taking that hour to go sit and read something or plan something or strategize.
Okay, so Cheryl, let's summarize that.
So like what can rest look like?
Well, I suppose we've talked about what rest can look like, but we also kind of touched on some steps or some things, some tools that our listeners could use to help them get rest without feeling guilty.
Yes. Okay. So you and I talk about this a lot. I mean, the first step is always to notice. It's paying attention to what you are feeling. So what's happening in your body when you start to contemplate going and resting or doing something that we've just defined as rest?
Actually, Cheryl, let me give a couple of tangible ones that I do. So what happens in my body when I try to stand up and leave my desk?
Yep. That's a good one.
And another one is like, what is happening in your body if there's a load of laundry sitting on the floor that needs to be done and you're not doing it?
Yeah. It's noticing what's going on in your body, what's going on emotionally, what are you thinking?
Yeah, what's the narrative in the back of your mind? Like, what's that voice above your shoulder saying? Not what is your conscious mind saying?
And then the other thing is actually go and do the thing, take the nap, get up from your desk. Like, if you actually force yourself to go and do that thing, then also notice what's happening in your body. Where's the resistance as you're doing it? What's actually going through your mind? These are all first steps. Like, you and I have a process for actually dissolving the belief and changing the way that you feel. But the first steps are always to notice what's happening when you're in the busy state, the doing, the productivity. Notice what's happening in your body. Notice what's happening as you transition, get up from your desk, or see that there's the load of laundry sitting there. And then also noticing what's happening in your body as you are resting or playing or whatever that thing is. Where's the resistance?
Can I add something that I feel needs to be said here? One of the things is, like, if one of the practices I'm suggesting is like to notice, you know, when you actually go and do the rest and leave the load of laundry. What I have been noticing in my own practice is, like, we're not suggesting don't do it ever. And that's what I think a lot of women are sort of like, I've actually been asked this at a talk I gave. So I'm just like, if I just drop everything, people are going to think that's weird. Like, I can't just drop everything. How do I do this? And that's not what we're suggesting, is that you drop a whole bunch of balls or stop doing the chores that need to be done. What I have noticed is, for example, like, my Saturdays used to be filled with chores. And like, I'd finally arrive home at 4:00 in the afternoon, exhausted, and flop down on the couch and not want to go out that night. And what I do now is I actually rest in the morning. Like, I sit around and I have coffee till 10 o'clock until I feel like doing the stuff. Sometimes I don't do it on a Saturday. I sit around and I wait until Sunday to do the stuff until I feel inspired to do it. And then the work gets done so much more quickly. The paper gets written in an hour. The work that I wanted to do gets done in half an hour. instead of it taking 3 hours. So the work is delaying, like allowing yourself to be inspired first, to rest first, so that when you do it, it's quicker.
Yes. And what you're starting to talk about now, Jen, is circling back to what we promised in this episode, the counterintuitive thing that happens when you rest.
Oh, right.
is the inspiration. It's creativity. It's the ideas that come. So the paradox is that rest is actually productive.
Yeah. And that reframe alone sometimes can be quite mind-blowing, actually, like to think of rest as productive.
Mm-hmm. And if you can't get to productive, maybe it's rest is nourishment. So our bodies need it as much as we need water and air and food.
A way to think about that too is like, I used to think about that as like, okay, rest is fueling my creativity. And it's also just fueling a desire.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I rested all Sunday. Like I woke up on Sunday and there were some things I wanted to get done around the house. And I allowed myself to wait until I felt inspired. And suddenly I went, like, it was about 2 and I went, I'm going to go clean the car.
Yes.
Because my car is disgusting and embarrassing. So I went and finally cleaned the car. And then it felt so like I enjoyed doing it because I was ready to do it. So when we talk about like rest fuels creativity and inspiration all the time, I want to also just add that in, that rest can fuel desire to go do that, to go do the thing.
That's so true. So just to summarize the paradox, rest is productive. Rest can actually fuel the motivation, the desire, the inspiration that you need to do what you need to do. And so then it happens more quickly and more efficiently and more productively. And you've still been able to have the rest. So you can actually get as much done in less time.
And you get it done in that way. You get it done without the resistance. You're not sitting there going, I'm cleaning the car. It's 10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. I'm cleaning the car. I don't want to be doing this.
Yeah.
I want to be having a cup of coffee in the sunshine on my porch. When you do it the right way around, all of it feels good, even the work.
It's so true. The last thing that I want to end on here, and this is something that, so I think we've given our listeners a couple of first steps to really start noticing what's happening in your body, your mind, your spirit, when you contemplate getting up from your desk, when you rest. One of the things that caught my attention that you said earlier, as you were talking about that, was the way that it looks. And I think that's what prevented, I can't speak for all the people who worked with me at that think tank, but at least for me, it was about appearances. That doesn't appear productive in our productivity culture. So we also have to let go of what is it going to look like to other people if I'm napping, if I'm taking an hour to strategize, and that's something that is another process that we get into in our program, but that's another part of what they're going to have to let go of is how does this appear to other people if I nap, if I rest, if I leave the load of laundry until the afternoon.
Yeah, you have to let go of that fear of judgment.
Exactly. So wrapping this all up, hopefully you have resonated with this, or maybe the hope is that you don't, and you don't need this podcast. But if you're still listening, yeah, chances are that you're feeling some of these things that we've described about rest and why it's important to change the way that you feel about rest. And also the first step or two to take to really uncover or really begin to practice resting. If you want the rest of the steps, or if we've gotten you curious about what else you can do to really anchor this in, then I'm excited to share with you that Jen and I are putting together a retreat just for midlife women.
I'm so excited because it is going to be the ultimate in rest. And we're not only going to teach you, you're not only going to get the restful experience on the retreat, you're going to learn how to stay that way.
Right. So if you are interested in, if you want the details of that, you want to be the first to know when we begin to open up the door to this retreat, then here's what I want you to do. Go to Sherry Johnson Coaching, or go to the link to that in the show notes.
Do this right now.
Yeah, get your phone open. Go to the link in the show notes at Sherry Johnson Coaching. It's going to open up Instagram to my profile. Hit the message button and type the word retreat. And I will make sure that as soon as we open the doors to this, that you get all the details. Okay, I think that was a lot, Jen. Come back next week for another episode too. And share this with someone who you think needs to learn how to rest.